20 years of searching had taught Sophia Morgan to contain her hope within rigid boundaries. But when she opened that fashion magazine in the quiet back room of Preston Public Library and saw those unmistakable amber-flecked eyes staring back at her, and, more importantly, the crescent moon birthmark curving along the young woman's jawline, those boundaries shattered completely. Her trembling fingers traced the photograph as reality tilted on its axis. After 18 years of dead ends and fading leads, Sophia was looking at her daughter. At 45, Sophia's chestnut hair now carried strands of silver, but her hands still moved with the practiced precision they had developed during her 2 decades as Preston's most dedicated librarian. The library had become her sanctuary, her constant companion through life's most devastating chapter. As she had been shelving books earlier that afternoon, a young mother struggling with both a toddler and a heavy tote bag had caught her attention. The little girl, no more than 2, bounced with each step, her golden curls swinging like tiny pendulums. "Excuse me," the mother had called, approaching Sophia's desk. "Could you point me toward the children's section?" Sophia had smiled warmly. "Of course. It's just through that archway, and to your right. We received some lovely new picture books yesterday." "Thank you," the mother replied, tugging gently at her daughter's hand. The toddler, however, had other plans. Her tiny fingers reached for a display of colorful bookmarks, sending several fluttering to the floor. "Lily, no touching!" the mother scolded gently, crouching to collect the scattered bookmarks. "It's quite all right," Sophia had laughed, waving away the mother's embarrassed apology. "That's what they're there for, to grab attention." The little girl's eyes widened at Sophia, offering a toothy grin that caught her heart in a vice grip of memory. That smile, so free, so curious about everything the world had to offer, just like Zoe's had been. As the mother and daughter disappeared into the children's section, Sophia's practiced smile faltered. 18 years had passed, but moments like these still transported her back to that terrible day with brutal clarity. The call she'd missed while shelving books in the library basement, the 3 voicemails from Little Sprouts Daycare that went unheard because her phone was tucked away in her purse, the police cars already parked outside when she arrived for pickup, their lights casting ominous red and blue shadows across the playground equipment. "There must be some mistake," she had told the officer who approached her. "I'm just here to pick up my daughter Zoe. Zoe Morgan." The weight of his hand on her shoulder, the gentle way he'd asked her to come inside, the security footage they showed her later that week, a trusted staff member, Vanessa Kramer, leading Zoe by the hand to the playground gate, checking her surroundings, then quickly bundling the child into a waiting car. For months, the search consumed everything. Sophia's marriage couldn't survive the strain. Her husband, Jack, moved out before the year was done, unable to bear living in a home filled with reminders of their missing child. But Sophia refused to leave Preston. What if Zoe somehow found her way back? What if there was a breakthrough in the case? The police found Vanessa's body 2 weeks after the abduction, hanging from a tree in Oak Ridge State Park. Suicide, they said. Guilt, they surmised, but no sign of Zoe. The case grew colder with each passing year, despite Sophia's desperate attempts to keep it alive. Zoe's distinctive crescent moon birthmark, a caramel-hued patch along her right jawline, featured in every missing child report, every news article, every flyer Sophia stapled to telephone poles until they disintegrated with age and weather. "Sophia!" The voice jolted her back to the present. Tara, her co-worker, was looking at her with concern. "You okay? You've been staring at that shelf for 5 minutes." Sophia blinked rapidly. "I'm fine. Just remembering." Tara's expression softened with understanding. After 15 years working together, she knew what those moments of stillness meant. "Why don't you head to the back room? The new deliveries came in this morning. I'll finish up here." Sophia nodded gratefully. Sometimes the kindness of others still caught her off guard, even after all these years. In the back room, cardboard boxes were stacked neatly by the receiving desk. Sophia pulled a box cutter from the drawer and methodically began opening the first package, her mind settling into the comfort of routine. Inside were the monthly magazine subscriptions: The Atlantic, National Geographic, and several glossy fashion publications that had proven surprisingly popular with their patrons. Sophia lifted out the stack, ready to log them into the system, when the top magazine stopped her hand mid-air. Vogue, and on its cover, staring back at her with familiar eyes, was a young woman with a distinctive caramel-colored birthmark along her right jawline, the exact shape of a crescent moon. The backdrop was a sunlit orchard, the model dressed in an off-the-shoulder cream blouse, a patterned scarf tied over her head, and denim jeans, looking nothing like a typical fashion model. The headline read, "American Pastoral, Fashion Returns to Its Roots." Sophia's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself, her other hand flying to cover her mouth as a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob escaped her lips. The face was different, mature, the roundness of childhood replaced with defined cheekbones and a strong jawline. But Sophia would recognize that birthmark anywhere. She'd traced it with her finger countless times as she'd rocked Zoe to sleep. She'd described it to police officers, sketch artists, and anyone else who would listen. After 18 years of dead ends and fading hope, Sophia Morgan was looking at her daughter. With trembling hands, Sophia flipped open the magazine, the crisp pages crackling under her fingertips. The cover shot had captured her attention, but it was the editorial spread inside that made her heart pound against her ribcage like a trapped bird. She found the feature article on page 32, titled, "A Visual Ode to the Hands and Hearts That Feed America." The photographs were stunning. Candid shots of farm life across rural America, each image infused with an authenticity rarely seen in high-fashion publications. And there she was again. The young woman Sophia believed to be Zoe appeared in a full-page photograph, looking over her shoulder at the camera. Unlike the other models in perfectly styled farm attire, this shot had a spontaneous quality. The woman was genuinely working, caught in a moment of pause. The sunlight caught in her light brown hair, illuminating strands of honey gold that Sophia recognized from her own mirror. And there, unmistakable even in profile, was the birthmark. Sophia's eyes darted to the caption beneath the photo. "Amber Reed, 20, at Hayworth Orchards, in rural Vermont." Amber Reed. Not Zoe Morgan. But the age matched. Zoe would be 20 now, having been nearly 2 when she disappeared 18 years ago. With a deep breath to steady herself, Sophia began reading the interview snippet that accompanied the photographs. "What's your name?" "Amber Reed, ma'am." "That's a lovely name." "Thanks. My mama says I was named after the color of autumn leaves." "Why don't you wear makeup like the other girls we photographed?" "Didn't have time. Was picking apples before you showed up." "Your birthmark is striking. Most people just stare and don't say anything." The rest of the article shifted focus to broader agricultural issues. The economic challenges faced by local farmers competing with imported products, the environmental impact of sustainable farming practices, the revival of traditional agricultural methods among younger generations. But Sophia barely registered these details. Her mind was fixed on the young woman with her daughter's birthmark, her daughter's age, and something in her expression that reminded Sophia so much of Jack. That quiet determination, that graceful strength. At the end of the article, Sophia found what she needed. Photography by Mira Santos. She glanced at the clock on the wall. 2:15 p.m. Pulling out her cell phone, Sophia quickly searched for Detective Richard Coleman's number. He'd been the lead investigator on Zoe's case all those years ago, and although they'd fallen out of contact over the last few years, she still had his number saved. The call went straight to voicemail. Richard's recorded voice asked her to leave a message, but Sophia hung up instead. This wasn't something to explain over voicemail. The magazine in her hands felt too important, too urgent to wait. Decision made, Sophia gathered her purse and the magazine, then rushed to the front desk where Tara was helping an elderly patron. "Tara, I need to leave. Now!" Sophia's voice was strained, her eyes wide with barely contained emotion. Tara took one look at Sophia's face, then at the magazine clutched in her white-knuckled grip. "What's happened?" Sophia flipped the magazine to show the cover. "I think I found her, Tara. I think I found Zoe." Tara's hand flew to her mouth as she recognized the birthmark. Everyone at the library knew about Sophia's missing daughter. Many of them had helped distribute flyers in those first desperate years. "Go," Tara said immediately. "We'll cover your shift. Do you need someone to go with you?" "No, I need to go to the police station. Show them this." Sophia was already backing toward the door, as if afraid the magazine might vanish if she wasted another second. "Let us know what happens," Tara called after her. And then, hesitating only briefly, she added, "Sophia?" Sophia paused. "Good luck." In the parking lot, Sophia slid behind the wheel of her aging Honda Civic, the magazine placed carefully on the passenger seat beside her. For a moment, she simply sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, forcing herself to breathe. 18 years of false leads and disappointments had taught her to guard her hope carefully. But the birthmark, that distinctive marking, couldn't be a coincidence. It was too unique, too perfectly matched to Zoe's. The Preston Police Station was a modest brick building with an American flag fluttering above the entrance. Sophia had been here countless times over the years, initially daily, then weekly, then on significant dates. Zoe's birthday, Christmas, the anniversary of her disappearance. Each visit had ended the same way, with sympathetic nods and gentle reminders that they would call if anything new developed. Today felt different. Officer Martinez at the front desk recognized her immediately. "Mrs. Morgan," he said, his expression shifting from professional neutrality to gentle concern. "What brings you in today?" "I need to see Detective Coleman," Sophia said, clutching the magazine to her chest. "It's about Zoe. I think I found something." Officer Martinez's eyes flickered to the magazine, then back to her face. "Detective Coleman is in court today, but Detective Ramirez is here. She's familiar with your case." Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "All right, I'll speak with her." Detective Elena Ramirez was younger than Coleman, perhaps in her late 30s, with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that Sophia had always appreciated during their previous interactions. She led Sophia to a small conference room rather than an interrogation room, a courtesy that hadn't gone unnoticed. "Mrs. Morgan," Ramirez began, settling into a chair across from her. "Martinez says you may have found new information about your daughter." "I have," Sophia said, her voice stronger than she expected. She placed the magazine on the table and opened it to the cover. "This is the latest issue of Vogue, and this," she pointed to the young woman's face, specifically to the crescent-shaped mark along her jawline, "is my daughter's birthmark. The same shape, the same placement." Detective Ramirez studied the image carefully, her expression guarded but interested. "And inside," she prompted. Sophia flipped to the feature spread, pointing out the additional photos and the interview snippet. "Her name is listed as Amber Reed. She's 20, the right age for Zoe, and she's at an orchard in Vermont." Her voice caught. "Detective, that's her. I know it is." Ramirez read through the article, occasionally glancing up at Sophia. "The birthmark is certainly distinctive," she conceded. "And the age matches. It's worth looking into." Hope surged through Sophia. "So you'll investigate?" "Yes," Ramirez said, closing the magazine. "I'll reach out to the magazine first, see if we can get contact information for this photographer." She checked the name, Mira Santos. "And I'll contact the Vermont State Police to locate this Hayworth Orchards." "How long will that take?" Sophia asked, her mind already racing ahead. "Hard to say. Could be hours, could be days. These things take time, Mrs. Morgan. You know that?" Sophia shook her head. "I can't wait days. Not after 18 years. I'm going to Vermont." Detective Ramirez frowned. Mrs. Morgan, I strongly advise against that. Let us do our job. If this young woman is Zoe, we need to approach the situation carefully. There are protocols. With all due respect, Detective, Sophia interrupted, her voice quiet but firm. The protocols haven't found my daughter in 18 years. I'm going. I'm not asking for permission. I'm simply letting you know. Ramirez studied her for a long moment, then sighed. At least let me make some calls first. Get you the exact location of this orchard. Maybe some background on the owners. Give me 2 hours. It was a reasonable request, and Sophia knew it. 2 hours, she agreed. Then I'm on the road. Sophia used the time to prepare. She returned home, a modest townhouse she'd downsized to after Jack left, and packed a small overnight bag. Vermont was approximately 6 hours from Preston, Pennsylvania, and she had no intention of stopping until she reached Hayworth Orchards. She paused at Zoe's room, preserved exactly as it had been 18 years ago, a shrine to the daughter she'd lost. The stuffed rabbit Zoe had loved, the colorful alphabet blocks, the mobile of butterflies above the crib she'd never transitioned out of. From the dresser, Sophia lifted a small photo album and tucked it into her bag. When she found Zoe, she would need these reminders of where she'd come from, who she truly was. Her phone rang just as she was loading her bag into the car. Detective Ramirez. I've got something for you, the detective said without preamble. Hayworth Orchards is outside a town called Millfield, Vermont. It's owned by a couple named Thomas and Diane Hayworth, both in their 60s. They've owned the property for over 30 years. And Amber Reed? Sophia asked, holding her breath. Lives on the property, according to local records. She's listed as the Hayworth's niece in some newspaper articles about the orchard. Been there since she was a child. Ramirez paused. Mrs. Morgan, I've also been in touch with the Vermont State Police. They're sending an officer to the orchard this afternoon to do a welfare check. If you insist on going, I'd recommend you wait for their report. I can't, Sophia said simply. But thank you for the information. I'll be careful. One more thing, Ramirez added. I spoke to the magazine. The photographer, Mira Santos, said she was just assigned to shoot at the orchard. She met Amber Reed briefly, but doesn't have any personal connection. She did say that the Hayworths seemed protective. They almost didn't allow the photo shoot until Reed convinced them. Protective or controlling? Sophia wondered. Thank you, Detective. I'll call you when I reach Vermont. The drive north felt simultaneously endless and too brief. Sophia's mind churned with possibilities as the Pennsylvania landscape gave way to New York, and then the Green Mountains of Vermont. What would she say to this young woman? How would Amber react? Would there be any flicker of recognition? Any buried memory of her true identity? And the Hayworths, who were they? Had they known they were raising a kidnapped child? Had they been complicit in Zoe's abduction, or unwitting participants in some larger scheme? As the GPS guided her deeper into rural Vermont, the sun began to sink toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the winding country roads. Sophia had driven for nearly 7 hours, stopping only for gas and a quick bathroom break. In 2.5 miles, your destination will be on the right, the GPS announced in its robotic voice, startling Sophia from her thoughts. Her heart rate accelerated. After all these years of searching, of hoping, she was minutes away from potentially finding her daughter. The realization was overwhelming. Hayworth Orchards appeared first as a wooden sign at the roadside, the name burned into a slab of polished oak. The property beyond was extensive. Neat rows of apple trees stretched into the distance, and at the center stood a large farmhouse with a wraparound porch, flanked by a red barn and several outbuildings. Sophia pulled her car to the side of the road just before the entrance to the property. She needed a moment to collect herself, to think clearly about her approach. Charging in with accusations and demands wouldn't help anyone, least of all Zoe, or Amber, as she now believed herself to be. As she debated her next move, a pickup truck emerged from the orchard's driveway, turning onto the main road and passing Sophia's parked car. Through the truck's open window, Sophia caught a glimpse of the driver. A young woman with light brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. Though the encounter lasted only seconds, Sophia's breath caught in her throat. It was her, the girl from the magazine, Zoe. Without conscious thought, Sophia started her engine and pulled onto the road, following the pickup at a discreet distance. If the young woman noticed the same car behind her for several miles, she gave no indication, driving steadily toward the small town visible in the valley below. The pickup eventually turned into the parking lot of a modest grocery store, one of those family-owned establishments that seem to be the lifeblood of small rural communities. Sophia parked several spaces away and watched as the young woman, Amber or Zoe, climbed out of the truck and headed into the store, a reusable shopping bag in hand. This was it, her chance to approach in a public place, without the Hayworths present. Sophia's hand trembled as she reached for her door handle. 18 years of searching had led to this moment. She stepped out of her car into the cool Vermont evening, the scent of pine and distant wood smoke filling the air. Taking a deep breath, Sophia followed her daughter into the store. Inside, the grocery was warmly lit and uncrowded, with perhaps half a dozen other shoppers moving through the narrow aisles. It took Sophia a moment to spot the young woman, who was selecting apples from a display near the front. Ironically, given her occupation, Sophia moved closer, pretending to examine a nearby shelf of local honey while stealing glances at the girl's profile. The birthmark was there, unmistakable even in the store's fluorescent lighting. A perfect crescent moon along her jawline. As if sensing the scrutiny, the young woman looked up, her amber-flecked eyes meeting Sophia's directly. Time seemed to stop. Sophia's carefully planned words evaporated. All she could do was stare into the face she'd dreamed of for 18 years, searching for any sign of recognition. "Do I know you?" the young woman asked, her brow furrowing slightly. Sophia's heart thundered in her chest. "I think you might," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Sophia Morgan, and I believe you're my daughter." The young woman took a step back, her expression shifting from confusion to wariness. The apple she'd been holding tumbled from her fingers, landing with a dull thud on the grocery store's linoleum floor. "Excuse me?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes, those familiar amber-flecked eyes, darted toward the exit. Sophia immediately recognized her mistake. 18 years of imagining this moment, and she'd blundered into it like a bull in a china shop. "I'm sorry," Sophia said quickly, bending down to retrieve the fallen apple. "That came out all wrong. I didn't mean to frighten you." "You didn't frighten me," the young woman replied, though her body language suggested otherwise. She accepted the apple from Sophia with a guarded expression. "But that's a pretty intense thing to say to a stranger." Sophia nodded, trying to gather her scattered thoughts. "You're right. It is. She took a deep breath. "I saw you in a magazine. Vogue. The article about American farms." Recognition dawned in the young woman's eyes. "Oh, that silly photo shoot. Aunt Diane nearly had a conniption when I agreed to it." She studied Sophia more carefully now. "But that doesn't explain why you think I'm your daughter." An elderly cashier glanced their way, clearly noting the tense conversation. Sophia lowered her voice. "Your birthmark. The crescent moon along your jawline. My daughter had the exact same mark in the exact same place." Instinctively, the young woman's fingers rose to touch the caramel-colored patch on her skin. "Lots of people have birthmarks." "Not like that one," Sophia countered gently. "When my daughter was little, I used to trace it with my finger while I sang her to sleep. I called it her moonlight kiss." Something flickered across the young woman's face. Not recognition, exactly, but a ripple in the fabric of her certainty. She glanced around the store, then back at Sophia. "Look, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but I'm Amber Reed. I've lived with my aunt and uncle at Hayworth Orchards practically my whole life. My parents died when I was little. There's no mystery here. Sophia took a calculated risk. Is that what Tom and Diane Hayworth told you? Amber's eyes narrowed slightly. How do you know their names? The police helped me locate the orchard after I saw the magazine. The police? Alarm now, sharp and immediate. Are they here too? No, Sophia assured her. At least not with me, but a local officer might be visiting the orchard for a welfare check. She hesitated, then pressed on. Amber, my daughter Zoe was taken from her daycare in Preston, Pennsylvania, 18 years ago. She was almost 2 years old. She had a crescent moon birthmark on her right jawline and eyes exactly like yours. Amber shook her head, but something had changed in her demeanor. A crack in her certainty, a seed of doubt taking root. This is insane. I need to go. She placed the apple back in the display and turned toward the exit. Wait, Sophia called, reaching into her purse. Please, just look at one photograph. That's all I'm asking. Amber paused, visibly torn between flight and curiosity. After a moment's hesitation, she turned back. Sophia held out her phone, displaying a photo of a chubby-cheeked toddler with light brown hair and a distinctive crescent-shaped birthmark. This is Zoe, my daughter. Amber stared at the image, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she reached out, taking the phone from Sophia's hand to examine the photo more closely. The resemblance and the birthmark, she murmured, almost to herself. There's more, Sophia said gently. I have a whole album in my car. Pictures of Zoe, of our family, her birth certificate, news articles about her disappearance. Amber returned the phone, her movements deliberate, as if each required careful consideration. I can't do this right now. I need to think. She retrieved her shopping basket from where she'd set it on the floor. I have to get these groceries back to the house. Sophia recognized the retreat for what it was. Not a rejection, but a request for space. Of course. I understand. She hesitated, then asked, Can we meet again? Tomorrow, maybe? Amber seemed to wrestle with the question. There's a cafe in town, Miller's, on Main Street. I can meet you there at noon. Relief flooded through Sophia. Thank you. I'll be there. Amber nodded once, then headed toward the checkout, her posture rigid with tension. Sophia watched her go, fighting the overwhelming urge to follow, to keep her daughter in sight. Instead, she forced herself to walk back to her car. Once inside, the emotions she'd been containing finally broke free. Tears streamed down her face as she gripped the steering wheel, her body shaking with 18 years of grief, hope, and longing. She'd found her. She'd finally found Zoe. But the battle was far from over. The Millfield Inn was a charming Victorian-era building with gingerbread trim and a wide front porch lined with rocking chairs. The proprietor, a cheerful woman named Helen, didn't bat an eye when Sophia requested a room for several nights, possibly longer. Visiting family in the area? Helen asked, as she processed Sophia's credit card. Something like that, Sophia replied, not quite ready to share her story. The room was simple but comfortable, with floral wallpaper and a 4-poster bed that dominated the space. Sophia set her overnight bag on a wooden chair and sank onto the edge of the mattress, finally allowing exhaustion to catch up with her. She needed to call Detective Ramirez to let her know what had happened. But first, she called the one person who deserved to know before anyone else. Jack answered on the 3rd ring. Sophie? His voice, still familiar after all these years, carried a note of surprise. They spoke infrequently these days, usually only on the anniversary of Zoe's disappearance, or when there was a brief, ultimately disappointing development in the case. Jack, I found her! The words tumbled out before she could craft a gentler opening. Silence stretched across the line. Then cautiously, What do you mean? Zoe, I found her. Sophia's voice broke. She's in Vermont. She's alive, Jack. She's alive and she's beautiful, and she still has her birthmark. Slow down, Jack said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." So she did. The magazine, the photographs, the trip to Vermont, the encounter at the grocery store. Jack listened without interrupting, though she could hear his breathing grow ragged at points. "She agreed to meet me tomorrow," Sophia concluded, "at a cafe in town." "I'm coming," Jack said immediately. "I'll get on the first flight I can find." "Are you sure? What about Melissa and the kids? Jack's new wife and their twin boys, just 7 years old." "Melissa will understand. And the boys?" "Sophie, this is about Zoe, our daughter." His voice cracked on the word daughter. "I know," Sophia whispered. "I know." They made arrangements to meet at the inn the following day, assuming Jack could get a flight into Burlington or Manchester and rent a car from there. After ending the call, Sophia dialed Detective Ramirez and provided a briefer version of events. "You approached her?" Ramirez sounded simultaneously impressed and exasperated. "Mrs. Morgan, we discussed waiting. I saw an opportunity and I took it," Sophia said firmly. "She's agreed to meet me tomorrow to talk further. I think she's considering the possibility." Ramirez sighed. "The Vermont State Police reported back to me about an hour ago. They visited Hayworth Orchards, but were told Amber Reed was in town running errands. They spoke briefly with the Hayworths, who seemed cooperative but, and I quote, visibly uncomfortable with questions about their niece." "She's not their niece," Sophia said automatically. "I know," Ramirez replied, her tone gentler. "I've reopened Zoe's case file, and I'm coordinating with Vermont State Police. We'll need DNA testing to confirm identity, of course, but the birthmark is compelling evidence. What's your plan for tomorrow?" "To show her the photo album. To tell her about her childhood, what little there was of it before she was taken. To learn who she is now." "Proceed carefully," Ramirez advised. "This young woman has spent her entire remembered life as Amber Reed. Learning she might be someone else, someone who was kidnapped, will be deeply traumatizing. And we still don't know what role the Hayworths played in all this. They could be innocent parties who adopted a child through irregular channels, or they could have been directly involved in her abduction." "I'll be careful," Sophia promised. "Jack is flying in tomorrow, too." "Your ex-husband?" Ramirez sounded surprised. "Well, I suppose that makes sense. He is Zoe's father." She paused. "Keep me updated. And Mrs. Morgan, congratulations. Even reaching this point is remarkable." After hanging up, Sophia realized she hadn't eaten since a hasty sandwich during her drive. But hunger seemed like a distant, unimportant sensation compared to the emotional tsunami crashing through her. She took a long shower, allowing the hot water to wash away some of the day's tension, then crawled between the inn's freshly laundered sheets. Despite her exhaustion, sleep proved elusive. Her mind kept replaying the moment in the grocery store. Amber's face when she saw the photo of Zoe. That flicker of something in her eyes. What was Amber thinking now? Had she told the Hayworths about their encounter? Was she lying awake too, her world suddenly tilted on its axis? Sophia reached for her phone and pulled up her favorite photo of Zoe. A sun-dappled portrait taken just weeks before she disappeared. In it, Zoe sat on a park swing, her head thrown back in laughter, her birthmark clearly visible along her jawline. "I found you," Sophia whispered to the image. "After all this time, I finally found you." Miller's Cafe occupied a prime corner location on Millfield's Main Street, with large windows overlooking the village green. Sophia arrived 30 minutes early, selecting a table that afforded a view of both the entrance and the street beyond. She ordered coffee she didn't want, just to secure the spot, then arranged her materials on the table. The photo album, a folder containing news clippings about Zoe's disappearance, and copies of the police reports she'd collected over the years. At precisely noon, the cafe door opened, and Amber stepped inside. She'd tied her light brown hair back in a loose braid, accentuating the fine bones of her face. Jack's cheekbones, Sophia noted with a pang. Amber scanned the room, spotted Sophia and approached with measured steps. "You came," Sophia said, unable to keep the relief from her voice. "I said I would." Amber slid into the chair opposite Sophia, her movements graceful but guarded. "I didn't sleep much last night." "Neither did I." A waitress approached, and Amber ordered herbal tea. Only when the server had departed did she speak again. "I talked to my aunt and uncle about you." Sophia tensed. "What did they say?" "They told me not to come." Amber's eyes met Sophia's directly. "They said you must be confused or unwell, that you're mixing me up with your missing daughter because of my birthmark." "And what do you think?" Amber's fingers drummed a restless rhythm on the table. "I think it's quite a coincidence. The birthmark, the age. But I also think there could be a logical explanation. Maybe it's just a striking resemblance." "Maybe," Sophia conceded, though she didn't believe it for a second. "That's why I brought these." She slid the photo album across the table. "To help us both understand." After a moment's hesitation, Amber opened the album. The first page contained Zoe's birth announcement. Zoe Elizabeth Morgan, born June 12, 2005, to Sophia and Jack Morgan. 7 Elobs, 2 O's of pure joy. "That's my birthday," Amber whispered, her fingers hovering over the printed date. June 12th. Sophia's heart rate quickened. "The Hayworths kept your real birthday." "It could still be coincidental," Amber said, but her voice lacked conviction. She turned the page, revealing photographs of newborn Zoe in the hospital, wrapped in a pink blanket, her tiny face scrunched in sleep. Cradled in Jack's arms, his expression a mixture of awe and terror. Nestled against Sophia's chest as she gazed down with undisguised adoration. "Here's your birth certificate," Sophia said softly, pointing to a protected sleeve containing the document. "And your footprints from the hospital." Amber studied these in silence, her expression increasingly troubled. She continued through the album, Zoe's first Christmas, first tooth, first steps. In each photo, the crescent birthmark was visible, a perfect match to Amber's own. "This was your favorite stuffed animal," Sophia said, indicating a well-loved rabbit in several photos. "You called him Bun Bun. You wouldn't sleep without him." "I don't remember any of this," Amber said, but her tone had shifted from skepticism to something more complicated. A dawning awareness, perhaps, that the foundation of her identity was built on shifting sand. "You were too young when you were taken," Sophia explained gently. "Just a month shy of your second birthday." Amber reached the final pages of the album, the after section. Newspaper headlines about Zoe's abduction, missing child posters with Zoe's smiling face, photos of candlelight vigils and search parties. "The whole community looked for you," Sophia said, her voice catching. "For weeks, then months. Jack and I went on national television begging for your return." She pulled out a folder containing printouts of news articles. "This is from the Preston Gazette, a year after you disappeared. And this one is from the 5-year anniversary." Amber's hands trembled slightly as she examined the evidence of a world turned upside down by her disappearance. "What happened to the person who took me?" "Her name was Vanessa Kramer. She worked at Little Sprouts Daycare where you attended. Security cameras showed her leading you out to a car in the parking lot." Sophia swallowed hard. Her body was found 2 weeks later in a state park. The police ruled it suicide. "She killed herself." Amber's voice was barely audible. "That was the official conclusion. But there were always questions. Vanessa had gambling debts. The theory was that she took you to pay them off, then was killed to eliminate witnesses." Amber closed the album, her movements suddenly decisive. "If what you're saying is true, if I am Zoe Morgan, then Tom and Diane Hayworth have been lying to me my entire life." The realization seemed to send a physical shock through her system. "They told me my parents died in a car crash when I was 2, that they took me in because my mother was Diane's sister." "I'm so sorry," Sophia whispered. "I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you." Amber stared out the window, her profile achingly familiar to Sophia. "I always knew something wasn't right. Small things. There are no photos of me before age 3. No photos of my supposed parents. Whenever I asked, Aunt Diane," she caught herself. Diane would get flustered and change the subject. The waitress returned with Amber's tea, interrupting the moment. After she departed, Amber wrapped her hands around the mug, as if seeking its warmth. "I need proof," she said finally. "Real proof. Not just photographs and coincidences, no matter how compelling." "DNA testing," Sophia nodded. "I've already spoken with the police about it. They're prepared to facilitate testing as soon as possible." Amber took a sip of her tea, then set the mug down with deliberate care. "If I am your daughter, this Zoe, what happens then? Legally, I mean." "You're 20 years old," Sophia said. "Legally, you're an adult. You can make your own decisions about where you live, who you maintain relationships with. No one can force you to do anything. And the Hayworths? What happens to them?" Sophia hesitated, knowing the answer would be painful. "If it's confirmed that you're Zoe, they would likely face charges. Kidnapping, false imprisonment, fraud. I'm not a lawyer, but those would be possibilities." "Prison," Amber said flatly. "Potentially, yes." Amber stood abruptly. "I need some air. It's too much." "Of course," Sophia agreed, though everything in her rebelled against letting Amber walk away. "Can we meet again? Tomorrow, maybe?" "I don't know." Amber gathered her purse, her movements agitated. "I need to think, to process all of this." "Amber," Sophia began, then corrected herself. "I'm sorry, I don't know what to call you." "Amber is fine," the young woman said, her voice tight with emotion. "It's the only name I've ever known." "Amber, then. My ex-husband, your father, Jack, is flying in today. He should arrive this evening. If you'd be willing to meet him, too." Amber's expression was a storm of conflicting emotions. "Maybe. I'll call you." She glanced at the business card Sophia had placed on the table earlier. "That's your number?" Sophia nodded. "I'm staying at the Millfield Inn, room 2 to 12. You can come by any time, day or night." Amber slipped the card into her pocket and turned to leave, then paused. "Why didn't you give up? After all these years?" The question caught Sophia off guard, but the answer came easily. "Because you're my daughter, and a mother doesn't stop looking for her child. Not ever." Something shifted in Amber's eyes, a softening, perhaps, or a moment of recognition. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving Sophia alone with the remnants of their conversation. Jack Morgan arrived at the Millfield Inn just after 7 that evening, his face showing the strain of hasty travel arrangements and emotional turmoil. At 50, his dark hair was threaded with silver at the temples, and lines had deepened around his eyes. But he was still recognizably the man Sophia had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I got here as quickly as I could," he said, dropping his overnight bag just inside Sophia's room and embracing her with desperate intensity. "Tell me everything. How is she? Does she look like us? Does she remember anything?" "Slow down," Sophia said, guiding him to sit on the edge of the bed. "She's beautiful, Jack. So beautiful. She has your cheekbones and my eyes, and the birthmark is exactly the same." "And her name is Amber now? Amber Reed?" "That's what the Hayworths named her. She agreed to meet with me today. I showed her the photo album, the news articles, everything we have about Zoe." "And?" Jack leaned forward, his expression hungry for details. "She's struggling to process it all, which is understandable. Her whole identity has been called into question. But I think part of her believes it might be true." "Did she agree to DNA testing?" "We discussed it." Sophia sat beside him. She said she needs proof, but she left rather suddenly. It was a lot for her to take in all at once. Jack passed a hand over his face, his expression a complex mixture of hope and frustration. "I need to see her, Sophie. I need to see our daughter." "I know. I told her you were coming. She said she might call, but—" Sophia shrugged helplessly. "We need to give her space, Jack. She's the one whose world has been turned upside down." "You're right." Jack sighed, then looked around the room, noticing the spread of documents on the small writing desk. "What's all this?" Detective Ramirez sent over more files from Zoe's case. "I've been reviewing them while waiting for you to arrive." Sophia moved to the desk, shuffling through papers. "There's something that never made sense to me. The daycare worker who took Zoe, Vanessa Kramer, had no known connection to Vermont. No family here, no history of visits. So how did Zoe end up with the Hayworths?" Jack joined her at the desk, examining a printout of Vanessa Kramer's employment file from Little Sprouts Daycare. There has to be a connection somewhere. Maybe through the gambling? If Vanessa owed money to someone who then sold Zoe to the Hayworths. Sophia's phone rang, interrupting their speculation. Her heart leapt when she saw the caller ID. Millfield, Vermont. An unknown local number. "Hello," she answered, motioning frantically to Jack. "It's Amber." The young woman's voice sounded strained. "I need to talk to you. Both of you, if Jack is there." "He just arrived," Sophia confirmed. "We can meet you wherever you'd like." "Not in public," Amber said quickly. "There's a park at the edge of town. Miller's Woods. Do you know it?" "I can find it. There's a picnic area near the entrance. I'll meet you there in 30 minutes. The line went dead before Sophia could respond. "That was her?" Jack asked, his voice tight with anticipation. Sophia nodded. "She wants to meet us. Now." Miller's Woods was a small nature preserve at the edge of Millfield, more a community park than a true forest. The October evening was cool and clear, the trees displaying peak autumn colors under the fading daylight. Sophia and Jack found the picnic area easily, a cluster of wooden tables just beyond the main parking lot. Amber was already there, pacing beside a table, her arms wrapped around herself as if for warmth or comfort. She wore a denim jacket over a simple t-shirt, her hair loose around her shoulders, making her look younger than her 20 years. She looked up at their approach, her gaze lingering on Jack. The family resemblance was undeniable. The same defined jawline, the same slight furrow between the brows when concentrating. "You came," Amber said, her voice tightly controlled. "Of course we did," Sophia replied, wanting desperately to embrace her, but restraining herself. Jack seemed frozen in place, staring at Amber with naked longing. "You look like my mother," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. She had the same eyes, the same way of holding herself. Amber swallowed visibly. "I went home after meeting with Sophia. I confronted Tom and Diane, the Hayworths." Her voice wavered but steadied again. "I asked them point blank if I was adopted. If my parents really died in a car crash." "What did they say?" Sophia asked, already dreading the answer. "They denied everything at first. Said Sophia was confused, delusional even. But I showed them the photo from my phone. The one of Zoe as a toddler, with the birthmark." Amber's eyes filled with tears. Tom started shouting, saying I had no right to sneak around behind their backs. Diane just broke down crying. She took a ragged breath. I asked them if they had any proof that I was who they said I was. Birth certificate, adoption papers, anything. They couldn't produce a single document. Not one. "Oh, Amber," Sophia murmured. When I pressed them, Diane finally admitted they'd paid $50,000 to adopt me through a private arrangement. No paperwork, all cash. They didn't ask questions because they'd been trying to adopt legally for years without success due to Tom's criminal record. Drunk driving charges. Jack took a hesitant step forward. "Did they know? That you'd been kidnapped?" "They claim they didn't, not initially. Said they were told my mother was a teenager who couldn't keep me, that the situation required discretion." Amber's expression hardened. But they admitted they saw the news reports about Zoe Morgan's abduction a few months after they got me. Said they recognized the birthmark, but convinced themselves it was a coincidence. They knew, Sophia whispered, anger flaring hot and bright within her chest. They knew, and they kept you anyway. Amber nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks now. All these years, all these lies. Every time I asked about my parents, about my past, they fed me more lies. She looked between Sophia and Jack, her expression raw with betrayal and confusion. I don't even know who I am anymore. Without conscious thought, Sophia closed the distance between them, enfolding Amber in her arms. To her surprise and profound relief, Amber didn't pull away. Instead, she melted into the embrace, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "You're our daughter," Sophia whispered fiercely. "You're Zoe Elizabeth Morgan, and you're also Amber Reed. You get to decide what that means now." Over Amber's shoulder, she met Jack's gaze, tears streaming down his face as he watched his ex-wife embrace their long-lost daughter. Sophia extended one arm, inviting him into the circle. After a moment's hesitation, he joined them, his strong arms encircling both women. For the first time in 18 years, the Morgan family was whole again. But as the twilight deepened around them, Sophia couldn't help but wonder, what now? The road ahead was fraught with legal complications, emotional landmines, and the daunting task of rebuilding relationships shattered by nearly 2 decades of separation. And somewhere in the gathering darkness, the Hayworths were likely realizing that their carefully constructed life was about to collapse entirely. The Vermont State Police Station in Millfield was a modest single-story building that seemed more suited to handling traffic violations and lost tourists than a high-profile kidnapping case. Detective Lauren Woods, however, exuded the competence and gravity the situation demanded. "I've been in touch with Detective Ramirez from Preston," she explained, gesturing for Sophia, Jack, and Amber to take seats in a small conference room. "We're treating this as a priority case." Amber sat stiffly between Sophia and Jack, her shoulders tense, her expression carefully neutral. After their emotional reunion in the park the previous evening, she had agreed to stay at the Millfield Inn rather than return to the Hayworth farm. She'd spent the night in a room adjacent to Sophia's, though whether she'd slept at all was questionable given the dark circles beneath her eyes. "Let me explain the process," Detective Woods continued, addressing Amber directly. "We'll collect DNA samples from all 3 of you today. The results will take approximately 48 to 72 hours, given the priority status." "And then what happens?" Amber asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "If the DNA confirms you're Zoe Morgan, we'll move forward with criminal charges against Thomas and Diane Hayworth." Woods glanced at her notes. "Based on your statement and the evidence Mrs. Morgan has provided, they could face multiple felony charges, including kidnapping, false imprisonment, and interfering with custody. Would I have to testify against them?" Amber's question hung in the air, laden with conflicted emotions. Detective Woods leaned forward slightly. "Eventually, yes, if the case goes to trial. But that's a long way off. For now, we need to focus on establishing your identity." "They're the only family I've ever known," Amber said quietly. "I know what they did was wrong, unforgivable even. But they did raise me. They did love me in their way." Sophia felt a pang of jealousy, immediately followed by shame. Of course, Amber felt loyalty toward the Hayworths. They'd been her parents for 18 years, regardless of how they'd acquired her. "No one is asking you to stop caring about them," Jack said gently. "Your feelings are valid, no matter how complicated they are." Amber glanced at him, surprise flickering across her features at his understanding. "Thank you," she murmured. Detective Woods cleared her throat. "There's another matter we need to discuss. The connection between Vanessa Kramer, who abducted Zoe from the daycare, and the Hayworths. So far, we've found no direct link between them." "Diane mentioned a man named Russell," Amber offered. last night when I confronted them. She said Russell promised us no one would ever find out. Russell, Sophia repeated, the name triggering a vague recollection. That sounds familiar? She looked at Jack. Wasn't there a Russell connected to the investigation? Someone who knew Vanessa? Jack's brow furrowed in concentration. Russell Bennett, I think. He worked at a casino in Atlantic City, where Vanessa gambled regularly. The police questioned him, but he had an alibi for the day of the kidnapping. Detective Woods made a note. I'll follow up with Preston PD about this Bennett. If he was the middleman between Vanessa Kramer and the Hayworths, he could be the key to unraveling the entire operation. This might not have been an isolated incident. The implication hung heavy in the room, that Zoe might not have been the only child taken and sold. A technician entered with DNA testing kits, explaining the simple cheek swab process to all three of them. Sophia went first, then Jack, both of them familiar with the procedure from the original investigation 18 years earlier. Amber hesitated only briefly before allowing the technician to swab the inside of her cheek. What now? She asked once the technician had left with their samples. Now we wait, Detective Woods said. In the meantime, I advise all of you to stay in town. The Hayworths have been informed not to leave the area, and officers are maintaining surveillance on their property. Have they been arrested? Jack asked. Not yet. We're waiting for the DNA confirmation before making arrests. They're aware of the investigation, however. The detective escorted them out of the station, promising to call as soon as she had any information about the DNA results or Russell Bennett's potential involvement. Outside in the parking lot, an awkward silence fell among the three of them. The formal setting of the police station had provided structure, but now they faced the reality of how to navigate these uncharted emotional waters. Are you hungry? Sophia asked Amber finally. We could get lunch somewhere. Amber glanced at her watch. Actually, I need to go to the orchard. To get some of my things? Alarm flashed through Sophia. Is that safe? With the Hayworths there? The police said they're monitoring the property, Amber pointed out. And I need my clothes, my laptop, some personal items. I can't just disappear from my life. We could go with you, Jack offered. Wait in the car if you prefer. Amber considered this, then nodded. That would be helpful. Thank you. The drive to Hayworth Orchards took place in tense silence. Jack navigated the rural roads in his rental car, following Amber's quiet directions. As they turned onto the long driveway leading to the farmhouse, Sophia spotted a police cruiser parked discreetly near the entrance. The promised surveillance. The property looked different in daylight, still beautiful, with its neat rows of apple trees and picturesque buildings, but now tinged with a sinister undertone, knowing what had transpired here. You can park by the barn, Amber instructed, pointing to a gravel area near a red outbuilding. I won't be long. We'll be right here, Sophia assured her, fighting the urge to accompany Amber into the house. This wasn't the time to hover, no matter how desperately she wanted to keep her daughter in sight. As Amber walked toward the farmhouse, Jack reached across the console and took Sophia's hand. She's handling this remarkably well, all things considered. She's in shock, Sophia replied, watching Amber's receding figure. The real emotional fallout will come later. Like it did for us, Jack murmured. Sophia nodded. The first few weeks after Zoe's disappearance had been a blur of activity. Working with police, organizing search parties, giving interviews. It wasn't until months later that the full weight of grief had crushed them, fracturing their marriage beyond repair. We need to be prepared for that, she said. For when it really hits her. Jack squeezed her hand. We will be, together. The word hung between them, laden with meaning. Their divorce had been amicable but final. Both had moved on. Jack with his new family in Colorado. Sophia with her solitary but purposeful life in Preston. Now, suddenly, they were thrust back into each other's orbits, united by the miracle of finding their daughter. A movement near the farmhouse caught Sophia's attention. Tom Hayworth had emerged onto the porch, his stance confrontational even from a distance. He and Amber appeared to be arguing, his gestures becoming increasingly agitated. "Something's wrong," Sophia said, releasing Jack's hand and reaching for the door handle. Jack was already ahead of her, exiting the car and striding purposefully toward the house. Sophia hurried to catch up, her heart racing with protective instinct. As they approached, Tom Hayworth's angry voice carried across the yard. "Turning your back on everything we've done for you. After all these years, this is how you repay us? You stole me from my real parents," Amber shot back, her arms wrapped around a small duffel bag. "You've been lying to me my entire life." "We gave you everything," Tom roared. "A good home, an education, love. What did these people ever give you?" "They looked for me." Amber's voice cracked with emotion. "They never stopped looking for me." Tom noticed Sophia and Jack's approach, his expression darkening further. "Get off my property," he snarled. "You've done enough damage." "We're just here to help Amber collect her things," Jack said, his tone deliberately calm, but with an undercurrent of steel. "Nothing more. Her name is Amber Reed, and she belongs here with us." Tom took a threatening step forward, but Amber moved between them. "Stop it," she demanded. "Just stop, Tom. I'm leaving. I need time to process all of this." The screen door banged open, and Diane Hayworth appeared, her face blotchy from crying, her hair disheveled. "Amber, please," she begged. "Don't go. We can explain everything. We can make this right." Amber shook her head, backing away. "How? How can you possibly make this right? You knew who I was. You knew my real parents were searching for me, and you hid me away for 18 years. "We were protecting you," Diane insisted. "Russell said if we ever tried to return you, we'd all be in danger. That man was dangerous, Amber. We were scared." "Russell who?" Jack demanded, seizing on the name. "Russell Bennett?" A flash of recognition crossed Diane's face before she could mask it. "I don't remember his last name," she lied unconvincingly. "The police will find him," Sophia said, stepping closer to Amber. "They're reopening the entire investigation." "You'll regret this," Tom warned, his gaze fixed on Amber now. "Once they arrest us, this property will be seized. The orchard, the house, everything will be gone. Is that what you want? To destroy the only home you've ever known?" "Don't try to manipulate her," Jack snapped, his patience visibly fraying. "Come on, Amber. Let's go." Amber hesitated only briefly before nodding and following Jack toward the car. Sophia lingered a moment longer, studying the couple who had raised her daughter. They were ordinary people in appearance. Tom with his weathered farmer's face and calloused hands, Diane with her practical clothing and sensible haircut. How had they justified it to themselves all these years? How had they looked at missing child posters with Zoe's face and continued the charade? "Did you ever consider returning her?" Sophia asked, the question escaping before she could contain it. "In all these years, did you ever think about what you were doing to us, to her real parents?" Diane's eyes filled with fresh tears. "We couldn't have children of our own," she said, as if that explained everything. "And she was so beautiful, so perfect. We told ourselves she was better off with us, away from whatever troubles her birth family must have had." "We had no troubles," Sophia said, her voice tight with suppressed rage. "We were a happy family until you people destroyed us." She turned away before they could respond, hurrying to join Jack and Amber at the car. Amber sat in the back seat, her duffel bag clutched to her chest, her expression closed and unreadable. "Are you okay?" Sophia asked as Jack started the engine. "I just want to leave," Amber replied, not meeting her eyes. They drove in silence back to the main road, the police cruiser still visible in its surveillance position. Only when the orchard was well behind them did Amber speak again. "I forgot something important," she said suddenly. "My journal. It's hidden in my bedroom, in a loose floorboard under the window seat." "We can go back," Jack offered, already slowing the car. "No!" Amber's vehemence startled them both. "I don't want to face them again. But I need that journal. It has everything. My thoughts, my questions, things that never made sense about my childhood." Sophia turned in her seat to face Amber. "We could ask Detective Woods to send an officer to retrieve it." Amber considered this, then nodded. "Yes, that would be better." "Why don't we go to the police station now," Jack suggested, "and make the request in person? Then perhaps we can get some lunch. It's been a long morning." The return to the Millfield police station was brief. Detective Woods was out, but another officer took down the details of Amber's journal and promised to send someone to collect it immediately. "The Hayworths won't know where to look," Amber explained. "No one knows about that hiding place." Lunch was a subdued affair at a small diner on Main Street. Amber picked at her food, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. Sophia and Jack exchanged concerned glances, but didn't press her to talk. The emotional strain was evident in the shadows beneath her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. "I need to check out of the Orchard's booth at the farmer's market," Amber said abruptly, setting down her fork. "I'm scheduled for tomorrow, and someone needs to cover it." "I can drive you there," Jack offered. "Actually," Amber said hesitantly, "I'd like to go alone, if that's okay. I need some time to think, to process everything." Sophia felt a flutter of panic at the idea of letting Amber out of her sight, but she forced herself to nod. "Of course, we understand." "I'll meet you back at the inn in a couple of hours," Amber promised, reaching for her jacket. I need some air." After she left, Sophia slumped in her seat, exhaustion washing over her. "She's pulling away." "She's overwhelmed," Jack countered gently. "Put yourself in her position, Sophie. Everything she thought she knew about herself has been upended. She needs space to come to terms with it." "I know," Sophia sighed. I'm terrified of losing her again." Jack reached across the table, taking her hand in his. The gesture was familiar, comforting in its simplicity. "We won't lose her. She came to us, remember? She chose to stay at the inn instead of going back to the Hayworths. That means something." Sophia nodded, drawing strength from his certainty. "You're right. I just need to be patient." "We both do," Jack agreed, "no matter how hard that is." They finished their meal in contemplative silence, then decided to walk through the town, partly to pass the time until Amber's return, and partly to avoid returning to the inn's confined spaces, where their worries might amplify. Millfield was postcard perfect, a quintessential Vermont town with tree-lined streets, historic buildings, and small shops selling artisanal goods. In another circumstance, they might have enjoyed exploring it together. Now, though, their attention was focused inward, on the emotional earthquake reshaping their lives. "Do you ever think about what might have been?" Sophia asked, as they passed a playground where children chased each other around a slide. "If Zoe hadn't been taken?" Jack followed her gaze to the playing children. "All the time," he admitted. "Especially after the twins were born. Every milestone, every birthday, I'd wonder what Zoe would be doing at that age." Sophia nodded, a familiar ache squeezing her heart. "Do you think we would have stayed together if she hadn't been taken?" The question hung between them, laden with 18 years of what-ifs and might-have-beens. "I'd like to think so," Jack said finally. "But who knows? Life has a way of throwing curveballs." "Like finding our daughter after 18 years, Sophia murmured. "Exactly like that." They continued walking, their conversation drifting to safer topics. Jack's architecture firm in Colorado, Sophia's work at the library, mutual friends from Preston who still kept in touch. It was strange how easily they fell back into the rhythm of conversation, as if the years apart had compressed into something much shorter. After completing a circuit of the town center, they found themselves back at the Millfield Inn. Amber had not yet returned, but a police cruiser was parked outside. Inside, Officer Jensen from the Millfield force was waiting for them in the small lobby. Mr. and Mrs. Morgan? Detective Woods asked me to drop this off. He held up a leather-bound book. Amber's journal. Thank you, Sophia said, accepting it. Did you have any trouble retrieving it? None at all, Jensen replied. The Hayworths were cooperative. Seemed subdued, actually. Did Zoe, did she tell you exactly where it was hidden? Jack asked. Under a window seat, just like she said. I brought her phone charger too, since it was on the bedside table. The officer handed Jack a cord. Detective Woods also asked me to inform you that she's received some preliminary information about Russell Bennett. She'd like you to come to the station tomorrow morning to discuss it. We'll be there, Sophia assured him. Any word on the DNA results? Not yet, ma'am. Probably tomorrow at the earliest. After the officer left, Sophia and Jack returned to Sophia's room, where Jack placed the journal and charger on the desk. Should we give this to Amber when she returns, or leave it in her room? He wondered aloud. Sophia eyed the journal, curiosity warring with respect for privacy. Her room, I think. It's clearly personal. Jack nodded agreement, but neither of them moved to take it next door. The journal represented a window into their daughter's inner world, a world they'd been excluded from for 18 years. We shouldn't, Sophia said, accurately reading Jack's thoughts. I know, he sighed. It's just, there are so many missing pieces. So many years we can never get back. Those years are written in that journal, Sophia acknowledged. But they belong to Amber. If she wants to share them with us, that's her choice. A knock on the door interrupted their moral dilemma. Sophia opened it to find Amber standing there, her face flushed from the autumn air, her expression guarded. The front desk said you were here, she explained, stepping inside when Sophia moved aside. The police brought your journal, Jack said, gesturing to the desk. And your phone charger. Amber's eyes widened. They found it? Right where you said it would be, Sophia confirmed. The officer said the Hayworths were cooperative. Amber approached the desk slowly, lifting the journal with reverence. Thank you for not reading it, she said softly. We wouldn't, Sophia assured her, though the temptation had been powerful. It's yours. Amber sat on the edge of the bed, the journal clutched to her chest. I've been keeping this since I was 12, when I started to notice that things didn't add up about my childhood. What kind of things? Jack asked gently, taking a seat in the armchair by the window. Amber traced the edge of the journal with her fingertips. Little inconsistencies. No baby pictures, no stories about my first words or first steps. No family resemblance. I look nothing like the Hayworths or the photos they claimed were my parents. She paused. And then there were the rules. Rules, Sophia prompted, sitting beside her daughter, but careful to maintain a respectful distance. I wasn't allowed to have my photo taken for school yearbooks. I couldn't join sports teams or clubs that might travel out of town. I was homeschooled until high school, and even then, Diane drove me to and from school every day. Amber's voice grew stronger as she continued. I wasn't allowed to have social media accounts. No sleepovers at friends' houses. No dating. They were hiding you, Jack said quietly. Amber nodded. I thought they were just overprotective. But looking back, it's so obvious they were terrified someone would recognize me. Did you ever confront them before now? Sophia asked. Not directly, Amber admitted. I'd ask questions, but whenever I pushed too hard, Diane would get upset, or Tom would get angry. Eventually, I just stopped asking. She patted the journal. I wrote it all down instead. Every question, every inconsistency, every time I felt like I didn't belong. And now? Jack asked cautiously. How do you feel now? Amber raised her eyes to meet his, then Sophia's. Like I'm living in a strange dream. Like I've stepped through the looking glass, and everything is backwards. She took a deep breath, but also like maybe I'm finally waking up. Like maybe I've been asleep for 18 years. Sophia felt her throat tighten with emotion. Amber, I want you to know that we don't expect you to suddenly become Zoe again. We don't expect you to call us Mom and Dad or to leave your life behind. We just want whatever you're comfortable with." "Exactly," Jack echoed. "We've missed 18 years of your life. We don't want to miss any more, but we understand this is overwhelming, and we'll respect whatever boundaries you need." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "I spent so many years feeling like something was missing, like a piece of me was hollow. I thought maybe I was just broken somehow." She wiped away a tear with the back of her hand. "But it was this. You, my real parents, my real identity, that was missing." Unable to contain herself any longer, Sophia reached out, gently covering Amber's hand with her own. To her immense relief, Amber turned her palm upward, interlacing their fingers. "Detective Woods mentioned Russell Bennett," Amber said after a moment. "Do you think he's the connection? The person who took me from Vanessa and sold me to the Hayworths?" Jack nodded grimly. "It seems likely. The police questioned him during the original investigation because he had connections to Vanessa through the casino where she gambled. But they never found evidence linking him directly to your abduction." "If the Hayworths paid $50,000 for me," Amber mused, "I wonder how much of that went to Vanessa and how much Bennett kept for himself." "It doesn't matter," Sophia said fiercely. "What matters is that they all participated in stealing a child. In stealing you." Amber lowered her eyes to their joined hands. "I keep thinking about Vanessa, about her death. If she was murdered to keep her quiet, then Bennett likely arranged it," Jack finished, "which makes him not just a kidnapper and trafficker, but a murderer." A heavy silence fell over the room as the full implications sank in. Then Amber spoke again, her voice small but resolute. "I want to read you something," she said, opening her journal to a page marked with a faded blue ribbon. "I wrote this on my 16th birthday." She cleared her throat and began to read. "Today, I am 16. Diane made my favorite cake, lemon with raspberry filling, and Tom gave me a silver necklace with a moon charm that he said reminded him of my birthmark. I should be happy, but there's this hollow feeling I can't shake, like I'm celebrating a lie. I had that dream again last night, the one where I'm very small, and someone is singing to me, a woman with brown hair and a voice like warm honey. She's singing about a moonbeam and starlight, and I feel so safe, so loved. When I wake up, I'm crying, and I don't know why. Sometimes I think these dreams are memories, real memories from before the Hayworths. But they never talk about that time, my life before the accident that supposedly killed my parents. It's like I didn't exist before I came to live with them. 16 years old, and I feel like I'm missing half of myself. Like I'm a puzzle with crucial pieces scattered somewhere I can't reach." Amber closed the journal, her voice faltering. "I wrote that 4 years ago. I had no idea how close to the truth I was." Sophia's heart felt like it might shatter. "The lullaby," she whispered, tears flowing freely now. "I used to sing to you about your moonbeam birthmark. How it was a kiss from the moon, a promise that you'd always find your way home by starlight." Amber's eyes widened. That's the song in my dream. I've had that dream for years." "You remembered," Jack said, his voice breaking. "Some part of you remembered even after all this time." "I need to know everything," Amber decided suddenly. "About my life before, about who I was, who I am, about who you are. I need to fill in all those missing pieces." "We'll tell you anything you want to know," Sophia promised. "All of it." "Starting now?" Amber asked, a tentative hope in her eyes. "Starting now," Jack confirmed, moving to join them on the bed, creating a small circle of reconnection. For the next several hours, they talked. Sophia and Jack shared stories of Zoe's birth, her first smile, her first steps. They described their life in Preston, the home they'd made together, the plans they'd had for their daughter's future. They showed her more photographs, explained family traditions, told her about grandparents she'd never had the chance to know. In turn, Amber cautiously began to share fragments of her life with the Hayworths. Not the happy moments, which suddenly felt tainted by deception, but the questions, the inconsistencies, the growing sense throughout her adolescence that something fundamental was wrong. Night had fallen by the time they finally ordered room service dinner, none of them willing to break the fragile connection they'd established by leaving for a restaurant. Over sandwiches and soup, the conversation shifted to more practical matters. "What happens after the DNA results come back?" Amber asked, setting aside her half-eaten meal. "When they arrest the Hayworths, I mean." "That depends partly on what you want," Sophia explained. "You're an adult, so no custody arrangements need to be made. You can live wherever you choose." "I was studying agricultural management at the community college," Amber said. "Online courses, mostly. I suppose I could continue that anywhere." "You could come back to Preston with me," Sophia offered, trying not to sound too eager. "Or to Colorado with Jack. Or neither. It's entirely your choice." Amber nodded, considering. "And financially? I've been working at the orchard since I was old enough to pick apples. I don't have much saved." "We can help with that," Jack assured her. "Whatever you need." "I don't want to be a burden," Amber said automatically, then paused with a rueful smile. "Sorry, Diane always stressed independence." "You could never be a burden," Sophia said firmly. "You're our daughter." The words hung in the air, simple but profound. Amber's expression softened, and for the first time, Sophia glimpsed something she'd been longing to see. A flash of acceptance, of belonging. "I'd like to see Preston," Amber said finally. "To see where Zoe was born, where she lived. But I'd also like to visit Colorado, to meet your family, Jack." She hesitated. "Is that okay? To want to know both sides?" "More than okay," Jack assured her. "It's what we want too." A gentle knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Sophia opened it to find Detective Woods standing in the hallway, her expression grave. "I apologize for the late visit," she said, stepping inside when Sophia invited her. "But I thought you'd want to know immediately. We've located Russell Bennett." All three of them straightened, suddenly alert. "Where is he?" Jack demanded. "Dead," Woods replied bluntly. "His body was discovered in a hotel room in Atlantic City 3 days ago. Apparent suicide, though the investigation is ongoing." 3 days ago," Sophia repeated, her mind racing. "That's when the magazine hit newsstands." "When I first saw Amber's photo." Woods nodded grimly. "The timing suggests he may have seen the magazine as well, recognized the birthmark, perhaps, and feared the connection would be made. Or someone else recognized it and silenced him," Jack suggested darkly. "Just like Vanessa Kramer 18 years ago." "That's one theory we're exploring," Woods confirmed. "Bennett's death reopens questions about Kramer's supposed suicide. We've been in touch with the New Jersey State Police, who are re-examining both cases." Amber had gone very still, her face pale. "You think there are more people involved? Beyond Vanessa, Russell, and the Hayworths?" "It's possible," Woods admitted. Bennett worked at a high-end casino frequented by wealthy clientele. He had connections to organized crime, according to our preliminary investigation. The sums involved in these kinds of transactions can be substantial. $50,000 for my daughter, Jack said bitterly. "That's what the Hayworths paid." "And that was 18 years ago," Woods noted. "Unfortunately, the market for children has only grown more lucrative since then." The detective's clinical terminology sent a chill through the room. Sophia moved closer to Amber, instinctively protective. "What does this mean for our case?" she asked. "For proving Amber is Zoe?" "The DNA testing will still provide definitive proof of identity," Woods assured them. "But Bennett's death complicates the broader investigation into who else might have been involved in the trafficking operation. It also potentially puts all of you at risk." "At risk?" Amber echoed. alarm evident in her voice. If Bennett was murdered to prevent him from revealing his accomplices, those same people might be concerned about what the Hayworths know, or what you might remember, Woods explained. I've arranged for additional patrols around the inn tonight, and I'd like to assign an officer to stay in the lobby as a precaution. Is that really necessary? Jack asked, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. I believe it is, Woods said firmly. At least until we have a clearer picture of who we're dealing with. After the detective left, promising to return the following morning with any updates, a heavy silence fell over the room. The reunion that had seemed so miraculous just hours earlier now carried an undercurrent of danger. I should have known it wouldn't be this simple, Sophia said finally. Nothing about losing you was simple. Why would finding you be any different? We'll get through this, Jack insisted, his gaze moving between Sophia and Amber. All of us together. Amber nodded, though her expression remained troubled. I think I need some rest, she said, rising from the bed. It's been a lot to process. Of course, Sophia agreed, though every maternal instinct screamed at her to keep Amber close, to protect her from unseen threats. We're right next door if you need anything, Jack added. Anything at all. At the door, Amber paused, turning back to face them. Thank you, she said quietly, for looking for me all these years, for not giving up. The simple acknowledgement brought fresh tears to Sophia's eyes. We could never have given up on you, she said. Never. After Amber left, Sophia sank onto the bed, suddenly exhausted. Do you think she's really in danger? That we all are? Jack sat beside her, running a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration she remembered from their marriage. I don't know, but I'm not taking any chances. Not when we've just found her. What if they try to take her again? The fear that had haunted Sophia for 18 years resurged with renewed vigor. What if we lose her a second time? Jack's arm circled her shoulders, pulling her against his side in a familiar gesture of comfort. We won't, he promised fiercely. I won't let that happen. None of us will. Sophia leaned into his embrace, drawing strength from his certainty. Outside the window, darkness had settled completely over Millfield, and a light rain tapped against the glass. Somewhere in that darkness, forces they couldn't yet identify might be moving against them, determined to preserve secrets buried 18 years ago. But in this moment, despite the uncertainty and danger, Sophia clung to one undeniable truth. Zoe had been found. She was alive, intelligent, thoughtful, everything a mother could hope for in a daughter. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as the family they were always meant to be. The call from Detective Woods came at 8:17 the next morning, rousing Sophia from a fitful sleep. She fumbled for her phone, her heart rate accelerating as she saw the caller ID. We have the DNA results, Woods said without preamble. It's a match. Amber Reed is Zoe Morgan, with 99.9998% certainty. Though Sophia had known it in her heart from the moment she'd seen the magazine cover, the scientific confirmation still hit her with physical force. She pressed a hand to her mouth, tears springing to her eyes. Are you still there, Mrs. Morgan? Woods asked after a moment of silence. Yes, Sophia managed. Yes, I'm here. Thank you for calling so quickly. We expedited the testing. I'm heading to the Hayworth property now with a warrant for their arrest. I'd like all three of you to come to the station later this morning. Say 10 o'clock? We'll need formal statements, and there are some developments in the Bennett case I want to discuss in person. We'll be there, Sophia promised. After ending the call, she sat on the edge of the bed for a long moment, absorbing the reality that science had now confirmed what her maternal instincts had recognized instantly. Her daughter had been found. A soft knock at the door jolted her from her reverie. She opened it to find Jack, already dressed, his expression questioning. That was Detective Woods, Sophia explained, stepping back to let him enter. The DNA results are in. It's confirmed. Amber is Zoe. Jack closed his eyes briefly, his shoulders sagging with relief. Thank God, he murmured. They're arresting the Hayworths now, Sophia continued. We need to be at the station at 10. Have you told Amber? Jack asked, glancing toward the adjoining room. Sophia shook her head. Not yet. I wanted to tell her in person. Let's do it together, Jack suggested. This affects all of us. They knocked softly on the door connecting their rooms. When there was no response, Sophia knocked again, slightly louder. Amber? It's Sophia and Jack. We have news. Silence. A flicker of unease stirred in Sophia's chest. She tried the handle and found it unlocked. The door swung open to reveal an empty room, the bed neatly made, as if it hadn't been slept in at all. Amber? Sophia called, stepping inside. Jack followed, his brow furrowed with concern. The room was immaculate, showing no signs of occupancy except for Amber's duffel bag on the luggage rack and her journal on the nightstand. Her phone charger was plugged into the wall, but the phone itself was missing. Maybe she went down for breakfast, Jack suggested, though his tone betrayed his doubt. Sophia checked the bathroom, empty. She returned to the bedroom, her unease deepening into dread. That's when she noticed the folded piece of paper on the desk, her name written on the outside in an unfamiliar, elegant script. With trembling fingers, she unfolded the note and read aloud. Sophia and Jack. I couldn't sleep last night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the Hayworths' faces when I confronted them. The betrayal, the fear, the guilt. They raised me. No matter what they did, no matter how wrong it was, they're the only parents I've ever known. I need to speak with them one last time before they're arrested. I need answers that only they can give me. I need to understand why they did what they did, and why they kept me hidden all these years. Please don't worry. I'm not running away from you or from the truth. I promise I'll meet you at the police station at 10 a.m. By then, I hope to have the closure I need to move forward, with both of you, as Zoe Morgan. Amber, Zoe. She went to the orchard, Jack said, his voice tight with alarm. Alone. But the police are there by now, Sophia replied. Detective Woods said they were going to arrest the Hayworths this morning. We need to call her, Jack decided, pulling out his phone. Warn her. Sophia dialed Amber's number, but the call went straight to voicemail. Her phone's off or out of service, she reported, her anxiety mounting. I'm calling Detective Woods, Jack said, already scrolling through his contacts. His conversation with the detective was brief and tense. She's not there, he told Sophia after hanging up. Woods and her team just arrived at the orchard. The Hayworths are gone, and there's no sign of Amber. Ice-cold fear gripped Sophia's heart. Gone? What do you mean, gone? Packed up and left, apparently. Their car is missing, and Woods said it looks like they took clothes and personal items. They must have fled sometime during the night. And Amber went there looking for them, Sophia whispered, her mind racing with terrible possibilities. What if they took her with them? What if— Don't, Jack interrupted firmly. Don't go there. We don't know what happened yet. We need to go to the orchard, Sophia insisted, already reaching for her jacket. Now. The drive to Hayworth Orchards felt interminable, each minute stretching Sophia's nerves tighter. Jack drove faster than was prudent on the rural roads, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his jaw set in a grim line. By the time they reached the property, several police vehicles were already parked in front of the farmhouse, officers moving purposefully between the house and outbuildings. Detective Woods stood on the porch, speaking into a radio. Mr. and Mrs. Morgan, she called as they hurried toward her. I was about to contact you again. We've put out an APB for the Hayworths' vehicle, a 2019 blue Ford F-150 pickup truck. State troopers are checking all major roads out of the area. What about Amber? Sophia demanded, scanning the scene as if her daughter might materialize from behind one of the buildings. Any sign of her? Woods shook her head. None. But we found this. She held up an evidence bag containing a cell phone. It was on the kitchen table. "We believe it's hers." Jack confirmed it with a grim nod. "That's her phone." "We bought it for her birthday last year," a voice said from behind them. They turned to see a young man approaching, perhaps in his early 20s, with sandy hair and a worried expression. He wore work clothes stained with orchard dirt. "This is Jason Reynolds," Woods explained. "He works here part-time. He arrived this morning to find the Hayworths gone." "When did you last see them?" Jack asked urgently. "Or Amber. Mr. and Mrs. Hayworth were here yesterday afternoon when I left around 5, Jason replied. "They seemed, I don't know, stressed?" Mrs. Hayworth was crying in the kitchen. He hesitated. "I haven't seen Amber since the day before yesterday, when she left with her bag. She texted me last night, though, around midnight." "What did she say?" Sophia asked, hope flaring briefly. "Just that she wouldn't be at the farmer's market today, and asked if I could cover her shift," Jason said. "I said sure, but she never responded after that." "May I see the text?" Woods requested, holding out her hand. Jason pulled out his phone and brought up the message, showing it to the detective. "Is Amber in some kind of trouble? Are the Hayworths?" "We're trying to locate all of them," Woods replied neutrally. "If you hear from any of them, please contact me immediately." She handed him a business card. After Jason returned to his work in one of the outbuildings, Woods turned back to Sophia and Jack. "We're searching the property thoroughly, but so far, there's no indication that Amber was here last night or this morning. No signs of struggle or violence anywhere in the house." "That's something, at least," Jack said, though the words provided little comfort. "Could they have taken her against her will?" Sophia asked, voicing her deepest fear. "It's possible," Woods acknowledged. "But it's also possible she arrived after they'd already fled, and then left on her own. Or that she never made it here at all. Her note said she wanted to talk to them one last time," Sophia recalled. "If she came here and found them gone, where would she go?" Jack finished the thought. "Back to the inn? To the police station?" "We have officers checking both locations," Woods assured them. "And the local hospital, just to be thorough. For now, I need you both to return to town. If Amber contacts you, call me immediately." "We can't just sit around waiting," Sophia protested. "Our daughter is missing. Again!" The phrase hung in the air, sharp and painful. 18 years after Zoe's abduction, history seemed to be repeating itself in a cruel twist of fate. "I understand your frustration," Woods said gently. "But the best thing you can do right now is be somewhere Amber can easily find you if she reaches out. Go back to the inn. I promise we're doing everything possible to locate her." Reluctantly, they agreed. But as they walked back to Jack's rental car, Sophia spotted Jason emerging from a barn, carrying several empty crates. On impulse, she changed direction, approaching him. "Jason, you and Amber are friends, right?" she asked. He set down the crates, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Yeah, we've known each other since high school. I mean, we didn't go to the same school. She was homeschooled until sophomore year, but we met at the farmer's market. My family has a booth a few spots down from the Hayworths." If Amber was upset or needed somewhere to go, somewhere she felt safe, where might that be? Sophia pressed. Other than here or the inn? Jason considered the question, rubbing the back of his neck. "There's an old fire tower in Miller's Woods. We used to go there sometimes to talk, watch the sunset. Amber called it her thinking spot." He pointed toward the distant tree line. "It's about a mile into the woods from the main trail. Not many people know it's there." Sophia exchanged a glance with Jack, a spark of hope igniting between them. "Can you show us how to get there?" Jack asked. Jason hesitated. "I should really stay here and finish the pruning. Mr. Hayworth will be mad if—" He stopped, reading their expressions. "Yeah, okay. Let me grab my jacket." Miller's Woods in daylight was a riot of autumnal color, the maples and birches displaying brilliant reds and golds against the deeper green of the pines. Under other circumstances, Sophia might have found it beautiful. Now, She focused solely on following Jason and Jack along a narrow trail that wound deeper into the forest. "It's just up ahead," Jason said after they'd been walking for nearly 20 minutes. "You can see the tower through the trees." Sure enough, a metal structure rose above the canopy perhaps 100 yards ahead. An old fire lookout tower, its red paint faded and peeling. As they approached, Sophia scanned the clearing at its base, hope and anxiety warring within her. "Amber?" Jason called, cupping his hands around his mouth. "Are you up there?" "It's Jason!" Silence answered him, broken only by bird song and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. "Let me check," Jack said, already moving toward the metal staircase that spiraled up the side of the tower. Sophia and Jason waited at the bottom, watching as Jack climbed swiftly to the observation platform at the top. He disappeared inside the enclosed lookout, then emerged a moment later, shaking his head. "No one's there," he called down to them. Sophia's shoulders slumped with disappointment. Another dead end. "Wait," Jack added, peering at something inside the lookout. "There's a notebook or something up here." He disappeared back inside, reappearing shortly with a small, leather-bound book in his hand. As he descended the stairs, Sophia recognized it. Amber's journal, or one very similar to it. "That's Amber's," Jason confirmed as Jack rejoined them. "She's always writing in it." Jack handed the journal to Sophia. It was on the bench inside. "Looks like she left it deliberately." The journal was similar to the one they'd recovered from the Hayworth farm, but smaller, newer. Sophia turned it over in her hands, noticing a slip of paper tucked between the pages, marked with a pressed autumn leaf. With trembling fingers, she opened to the marked page and found another note in Amber's handwriting. "Sophia and Jack. If you're reading this, you found my thinking spot. I come here when I need clarity, when the world feels too complicated. Right now, everything is complicated. I went to the orchard before dawn, hoping to confront the Hayworths one last time. They were already gone. The house was empty, drawers left open, closets half-emptied. They knew they would be arrested today. Part of me is relieved I didn't have to face them. Another part feels cheated of the closure I was seeking. But perhaps it's better this way. A clean break from my old life, my false life. I need a few hours alone to process everything, to say goodbye to Amber Reed and prepare to become Zoe Morgan. Please understand, this isn't about running away. It's about finding my way forward. I'll meet you at the police station at noon. By then, I hope to be ready for whatever comes next. With love, a word I'm still learning to use with you, but one I know is true, your daughter." She signed it. "Your daughter," Sophia whispered, tears blurring her vision. "Not Amber or Zoe, just your daughter." Jack read the note over her shoulder, his expression softening with relief. "She's okay. She just needs time." "But where is she now?" Sophia wondered aloud. "It's nearly 11. "The police station," Jason suggested. "That's where she said she'd meet you." They hurried back through the woods, the return journey passing more quickly now that their fear for Amber's safety had been somewhat alleviated. Jason departed for the orchard once they reached the trailhead, while Sophia and Jack drove directly to the Millfield police station. Detective Woods met them in the lobby, her expression guarded. "No sign of Amber yet," she reported before they could ask. "But we've located the Hayworth's vehicle." "Where?" Jack demanded. "At a bus station in Burlington. It appears they abandoned it there sometime during the night. We're reviewing security footage now to determine which bus they may have boarded." "They're running," Sophia concluded. "It certainly appears that way," Woods agreed, "which strongly suggests their guilt. Innocent people don't typically flee from questioning." "Has Amber contacted you?" Sophia asked, showing the detective the note they'd found in the fire tower. Woods read it quickly. "Not yet. But if she's planning to come here at noon, that's only about 45 minutes from now." She checked her watch. "Why don't you wait in my office? It's more comfortable than the lobby, and I'll bring her straight to you when she arrives." The detective's office was small but private, with 2 visitor chairs facing a desk cluttered with files and a computer. Photographs of what appeared to be Woods's family adorned one wall. A smiling woman with auburn hair, 2 teenage boys, a golden retriever. Jack paced the small space while Sophia sat rigidly in one of the chairs, her gaze fixed on the closed door as if she could will Amber to appear through it. Neither spoke much, both lost in their own thoughts, their own fears and hopes about the daughter who had been lost and found, and was now, temporarily at least, lost again. At precisely 12:01, a commotion in the hallway outside drew their attention. Sophia stood abruptly, and Jack paused in his pacing, both turning toward the door with anticipation. It opened to reveal Detective Woods, her expression unreadable, and behind her, Amber, her cheeks flushed from the cold, her eyes bright with emotion. "Hi," she said simply, stepping into the room. "I got here as fast as I could." "You're here," Sophia breathed, relief washing over her in a physical wave. "You're safe." "I'm sorry I worried you," Amber said, setting down a backpack Sophia hadn't seen before. "I needed to do a few things on my own." "We understand," Jack assured her. "We found your note at the fire tower." Amber nodded. "I hoped you would. Jason knows all my hiding spots." She turned to Detective Woods. "Have you found the Hayworths yet?" "Not yet," Woods replied. "But we will. It's only a matter of time." "I hope so," Amber said softly. "I have questions only they can answer." Woods glanced between the 3 of them. "I'll give you some privacy. When you're ready, we still need those formal statements." She exited, closing the door behind her. Amber sank into the chair Sophia had vacated, suddenly looking exhausted. "The DNA results?" she asked. "Is it official?" "Yes," Sophia confirmed, her voice gentle. "You are definitely Zoe Morgan, our daughter." Amber, Zoe, nodded slowly, as if absorbing this final confirmation of her true identity. "I've been thinking about names," she said after a moment. "About whether I should go by Zoe now, or keep using Amber." "Whatever you choose is fine," Jack assured her quickly. "I think I'd like to be Zoe Amber Morgan," she decided, looking up at them, "to honor both parts of who I am, the child you lost and the woman I've become." Sophia felt tears rise to her eyes again. "That sounds perfect." "I also went to the bank this morning," Zoe continued. "I closed my account, the one the Hayworths set up for me. I didn't want any connection to them or their money." She reached for her backpack, unzipping it to reveal a small potted plant, healthy green leaves unfurling from rich soil. "And I went to the garden center. I bought this." "A plant?" Jack asked, puzzled. Zoe's lips curved in a small smile. "A moonflower. They bloom at night. These large white flowers that glow in the moonlight. I thought we could plant it together, wherever we decide to go next, as a symbol of a new beginning." The simple gesture, so thoughtful and symbolic, touched Sophia deeply. "It's beautiful," she said. "A perfect new beginning." "Speaking of which," Zoe continued, "I've been thinking about what comes next. Once the Hayworths are arrested, once all the legal proceedings begin." She took a deep breath. "I'd like to go to Preston with you, Sophia, to see where I was born, where I lived before, and then, maybe later, to Colorado to meet your family, Jack." She glanced between them nervously. "If that's okay with both of you." "More than okay," Sophia assured her, relief and joy washing through her in equal measure. "Whatever you want," Jack added warmly. "However you want to proceed, we're with you all the way." Zoe's shoulders relaxed slightly. "I also want to finish my degree, maybe transfer to a college near Preston. I've been researching agricultural programs online this morning." "There's an excellent program at Westfield State," Sophia told her. "It's only about 20 minutes from Preston. Jack and I visited it when we were first married, thinking about future schools for—" She broke off, suddenly emotional. "For me," Zoe finished softly. You were planning my future even then." Jack moved to sit in the chair beside Zoe. "We've never stopped planning for you, hoping for you," he said. "All these years, the possibility of finding you was what kept us going." Zoe's expression softened. I wish we hadn't lost all that time, that I could remember my life before the Hayworths." "Maybe some memories will come back," Sophia suggested gently. "You remembered the lullaby, after all." "And even if they don't," Jack added, "we can make new memories now. That's what matters." A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Detective Woods entered, her expression grave. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development. We've identified the bus the Hayworths boarded in Burlington. It was headed to Montreal." "Canada," Sophia realized. "They're trying to leave the country." Woods nodded. "We've alerted Canadian border authorities, but the bus arrived 3 hours ago. They may already have crossed." "With false identification?" Jack asked. "Possibly. We're working with RCMP to check hotel registrations in the Montreal area." The detective turned to Zoe. "Ms. Morgan, were you aware of any contingency plans the Hayworths might have had? Any discussions about leaving the country? Perhaps to visit relatives?" Zoe shook her head slowly. "No, nothing specific. But," she hesitated, "every summer they'd talk about taking a vacation to Nova Scotia. Tom has a cousin there who owns a fishing lodge. They never actually went, at least not with me, but they mentioned it a lot." "Do you know the cousin's name? Or the name of the lodge?" Woods asked, pulling out a notepad. "Frank Hayworth, I think. And the lodge was something like North Harbor, Harbor Point? I'm not sure exactly." Woods made a note. "That's very helpful. We'll reach out to Nova Scotia authorities immediately." She glanced between the three of them. "In the meantime, I still need those formal statements, and then you're free to go. Though I'd ask that you remain in Vermont for at least another 48 hours, in case we locate the Hayworths and need additional information." After giving their statements, a process that took nearly 2 hours, Sophia, Jack, and Zoe returned to the Millfield Inn. The emotional weight of the day had taken its toll on all of them, particularly Zoe, who looked exhausted despite her evident determination to remain engaged. "Why don't you rest for a while?" Sophia suggested, as they entered the inn's lobby. "We can discuss dinner plans later." Zoe nodded gratefully. "I think I will. I didn't sleep at all last night." She hesitated, then added, "Would it be okay if I took your room, Sophia? I'd feel safer, not being alone right now." "Of course," Sophia agreed immediately, touched by the request. "I can take your room." "Actually," Jack intervened, "I was thinking we might all be safer if we stayed together. The Hayworths are still out there, and if they're part of some larger operation—" He didn't need to finish the thought. The implication was clear. Until the Hayworths were apprehended, there remained a risk, not just of them evading justice, but of them potentially trying to silence Zoe before she could testify against them. "Jack's right," Sophia agreed. "We should stay together." She turned to Zoe. "Would you be comfortable with that? We could request a roll-away bed for the room." "I'd prefer it, actually," Zoe admitted. "Like I said, I'd rather not be alone." They made the arrangements with the inn's proprietor, who seemed only too happy to accommodate them, particularly after Jack discreetly explained that their party was under police protection. By mid-afternoon, they were settled in Sophia's room, which now contained both the original bed and a rollaway for Jack. Zoe had insisted Sophia take the main bed, while she would use the small sofa near the window. "Are you sure?" Sophia asked, watching as Zoe arranged a blanket and pillow on the sofa. "It doesn't look very comfortable." "I'm sure," Zoe replied with a small smile. "I've slept in haylofts during harvest season. This is luxury by comparison." The casual reference to her life at the orchard, the only life she remembered, created a momentary awkwardness. Would every conversation going forward carry these landmines, these reminders of the 18 years stolen from them? Jack, sensing the tension, changed the subject. I was thinking we might order dinner in tonight. Stay close to the hotel until we hear more from Detective Woods. Good idea, Sophia agreed, grateful for the distraction. Zoe, do you have any preferences? I'm not picky, Zoe said, settling onto the sofa with her phone. A temporary replacement Jack had purchased for her at a local electronics store after her own had been left at the Hayworth farm. But I do love Thai food, if there's a local place that delivers. Thai it is, Jack declared, retrieving a folder of local restaurant menus from the desk drawer. As they debated curry varieties and noodle dishes, Sophia marveled at the surreal domesticity of the moment. After 18 years of grief and emptiness, here they were, a family again, albeit in strange circumstances, discussing dinner options as if it were the most natural thing in the world. And perhaps it was natural, she realized. The bonds of family, of blood, remained despite all that had happened. The DNA results had only confirmed what her heart had known the moment she saw that magazine cover. This young woman was her daughter, her flesh and blood, the baby she had carried and loved and lost and never stopped searching for. Zoe glanced up, catching Sophia watching her. What is it? Nothing, Sophia replied softly. I'm just happy you're here. A gentle flush colored Zoe's cheeks. Me too, she admitted. I mean, I'm still processing everything, still adjusting to who I am and who you both are to me. But it feels, she searched for the word, it feels right, like pieces fitting together. Before Sophia could respond, her phone rang. Detective Woods again. Mrs. Morgan, we've located the Hayworths, the detective announced without preamble. They were attempting to check into a motel outside Montreal using false identification. Canadian authorities have them in custody now. We're initiating extradition proceedings immediately. Relief flooded through Sophia. Thank you for letting us know, she said, relaying the information to Jack and Zoe with silent mouthings and gestures as she spoke. What happens next? The legal process will take some time, Woods explained. Extradition, formal charges, arraignment. But the important thing is, they've been apprehended. They won't be able to flee further or potentially pose any threat to Zoe. After ending the call, Sophia shared the details with Jack and Zoe. Jack's reaction was one of pure relief, but Zoe's response was more complex, a mixture of emotions playing across her features. Are you okay? Sophia asked gently. Zoe nodded slowly. I think so. It's just strange. They raised me. They were my parents, as far as I knew, and now they're being extradited to face criminal charges. She wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know how I feel. That's perfectly normal, Jack assured her. There's no right way to feel about any of this. I know I should hate them, Zoe continued, her voice barely above a whisper. They stole me from you. They lied to me my whole life, but I can't just erase 18 years of believing they loved me. Sophia moved to sit beside Zoe on the sofa, careful not to invade her personal space. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to feel anything in particular about them right now. You can be angry and grateful and confused and sad, all at the same time. Is that how you feel about them? Zoe asked, looking up at Sophia with those familiar amber-flecked eyes. I'm angry, Sophia admitted. Furious, actually. They took you from us. They deprived us of watching you grow up. And they deprived you of your true identity, your true family. But I'm also oddly grateful. Grateful, Jack echoed, surprised. They kept her safe, Sophia explained. They gave her a home, an education. They could have been much worse parents than they were. She looked directly at Zoe. That doesn't excuse what they did, not at all. But it means that, despite everything, you grew up to be this amazing, thoughtful, resilient young woman. And yes, I'm grateful for that, even as I'm furious about all we lost. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to reconcile it all, she confessed. how to make sense of my life now that I know it was built on lies. You don't have to reconcile it right away, Jack said, joining them on the sofa so that Zoe was between them, not touching, but surrounded by parental support. It will take time. Years, probably. And that's okay. And we'll be with you, Sophia added softly. Every step of the way, if you want us to be. Zoe nodded, wiping away a tear. I do want that, she said. I want to know you both, to understand where I came from, who I was meant to be. She took a deep breath. I want to be Zoe Morgan, even while I'm still figuring out exactly who that is. You get to define that, Jack told her. Not us, not the Hayworths, not what happened in the past. You. A tentative smile broke through Zoe's tears. Thank you, she whispered. Both of you, for finding me, for wanting me, even after all this time. We never stopped wanting you, Sophia said, allowing herself to reach out and lightly touch Zoe's hand. Not for a single day. When Zoe didn't pull away, Sophia gently curled her fingers around her daughter's, and after a moment, Zoe returned the pressure. It was a small gesture, but significant. A bridge across 18 years of separation, a promise of connection yet to come. Outside the window, rain began to fall, pattering softly against the glass. Inside, the three of them remained on the sofa, hands linked, silent but together, as the light faded from the autumn sky. The future would bring challenges, legal proceedings against the Hayworths, potential investigations into the broader child trafficking operation that had stolen Zoe, the complex emotional work of rebuilding a family shattered by trauma and time. But in this moment, there was only a profound sense of rightness, of homecoming, of pieces finally falling into place. After 18 years of searching, Sophia had found her daughter. After 18 years of feeling incomplete, Zoe had found her true identity. And after 18 years of separate grief, the Morgan family had found its way back to wholeness. Different, changed, but whole nonetheless. The moonflower seedling Zoe had brought sat on the windowsill, its leaves unfurling toward the rain-spattered glass, reaching for light even in the gathering darkness. Like the plant, they would grow toward healing, toward a future none of them could have imagined just days before. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worth having ever was. But as Sophia sat hand in hand with her daughter and her former husband, she knew with absolute certainty that they would find their way forward, together. 1 year later, the Preston Public Library hadn't changed much in the year since Sophia had left her position as head librarian. The same worn wooden shelves, the same gentle hush, the same scent of paper and binding glue that had been her sanctuary for 2 decades. She paused at the entrance to the children's section, watching as her daughter arranged a display of new picture books, her movements precise and methodical. Zoe's light brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, revealing the distinctive crescent birthmark along her jawline. No longer hidden, but worn as openly as a badge of honor. "Those look wonderful," Sophia commented, approaching with 2 cups of coffee from the cafe next door. Zoe looked up with a smile, accepting the offered cup. "Thanks. The new Underwater series just arrived, and I thought a special display might draw more attention." She had taken to library work with natural ease, volunteering at first, and eventually accepting a part-time position while she completed her studies at Westfield State. The arrangement allowed her to remain close to Sophia while still pursuing her agricultural degree, a perfect balance of honoring her past while building her future. "Have you heard from Jack today?" Sophia asked, helping to arrange the final books in the display. "This morning," Zoe confirmed. "He and Melissa are flying in tomorrow with the twins. They're apparently very excited to meet their big sister in person." The warm relationship that had developed between Zoe and Jack over the past year had been one of many unexpected gifts. Monthly video calls had evolved into regular visits, with Zoe spending spring break in Colorado and Jack flying east whenever his work allowed. His wife, Melissa, had welcomed Zoe with genuine warmth, and the 7-year-old twins were fascinated by their newly discovered adult sister. "The guest room is all ready for them," Sophia said. "And I picked up those dinosaur sheets the boys like." Zoe nodded, a contemplative expression crossing her face. "It's strange, isn't it? How we've all become family. Different than you probably imagined, but family nonetheless." "The best kind," Sophia replied softly. "One that was lost and found again." They worked in companionable silence for a few minutes, finishing the display before moving to a quiet corner of the library where they often took their breaks together. "The Hayworth's sentencing is next week," Zoe said after a moment, her tone carefully neutral. Sophia nodded. The legal proceedings had dragged on for months, with multiple delays and continuances. Through it all, Zoe had maintained a remarkable composure, testifying when required but otherwise focusing on rebuilding her life. "Are you still planning to attend?" Sophia asked gently. "Yes, I need to see it through to the end." Zoe traced the rim of her coffee cup thoughtfully. "Their lawyers are still pushing for leniency because they provided a good home and didn't know I was kidnapped initially." "How do you feel about that?" Zoe considered the question carefully, as she did most things. "I think they deserve punishment. What they did was wrong, regardless of how they treated me afterward. But I also don't want them to spend the rest of their lives in prison." She met Sophia's gaze directly. "Is that terrible of me? To still care what happens to them?" "Not at all," Sophia assured her. "It shows your capacity for compassion, even toward those who wronged you. That's a strength, not a weakness." "Russell Bennett's network was much larger than anyone realized," Zoe mused, changing the subject slightly. "Detective Woods said they've identified at least 7 other children who were sold to families over a 15-year period. The investigation had expanded dramatically after the Hayworth's apprehension, revealing a sophisticated operation that procured infants and toddlers for wealthy couples unable to adopt through legal channels. The revelation had brought renewed media attention to Zoe's case, though she had steadfastly refused all interview requests, valuing her privacy as she adjusted to her new reality. "Are any of those children being reunited with their birth families?" Sophia asked. "Some. The younger ones, mostly. The older ones, it's complicated, like it would have been if I'd been found earlier." Zoe set down her cup. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about timing and fate and why things happen when they do." "And what have you concluded?" A soft smile played at the corners of Zoe's mouth. "That perhaps I was found exactly when I needed to be, old enough to make my own choices, to decide who I wanted to be, but young enough to still build a relationship with you and Jack, to have a second chance at being Zoe Morgan." Sophia felt her throat tighten with emotion. "I would have given anything to find you sooner," she admitted. "To have back even one of those lost years. But I understand what you mean. Perhaps this was how it was meant to be." "The moonflower bloomed last night," Zoe said, seeming to change subjects again with the quick mental pivots that Sophia had come to recognize as her daughter's unique thought process. "The one we planted when I first came to stay with you. It was beautiful. This huge white flower, glowing in the darkness." Sophia nodded, remembering how they had planted the seedling together in the small garden behind her house. A symbolic new beginning. "Moonflowers only bloom at night," she noted. "And their blooms last just a single night." "But they're spectacular when they do bloom," Zoe added. "Worth the wait." She reached across the table, taking Sophia's hand. "Like us." The simple gesture, filled with such profound meaning, brought tears to Sophia's eyes. Over the past year, physical affection between them had evolved from hesitant and careful to increasingly natural. Each hug, each casual touch, represented another brick in the foundation of their rebuilding relationship. When I was a child, Zoe continued, I used to dream about my birthmark. I'd imagine it was a sign that I was special, chosen for something important. The Hayworths discouraged that kind of thinking. They wanted me to hide it, to be embarrassed by it. Now I understand why. And now? Sophia asked. Now I know I was right all along, Zoe said, a quiet confidence in her voice. It was a sign, a crescent moon to guide me home, just like in your lullaby. A way for you to recognize me when the time was right. Above them, afternoon sunlight filtered through the library's high windows, casting gentle patterns across their joined hands. Outside, life in Preston continued its steady rhythm. People hurrying to appointments, children playing in the park across the street, cars moving along familiar routes. But here, in this quiet corner of the library that had kept Sophia anchored through 18 years of searching, mother and daughter sat together in peaceful communion, their shared genetics visible in the curve of their smiles, the shape of their hands, the stubborn determination in their eyes. The past could not be changed. The 18 years stolen from them could never be recovered. But the present was theirs to shape, and the future stretched before them, bright with possibility. I'm glad you found me, Zoe said simply. I never stopped looking, Sophia replied. Not for one day. And in those words, in the hands clasped across the table, in the crescent birthmark that had finally guided a lost daughter home, there was healing. There was hope. There was the promise of all the tomorrows they would now share together.